So my big, hairy, audacious goal now is to put a portfolio together that will crank out $1 million a year that I can give away in charity.
Welcome to the Freedom Point Real Estate Podcast, where we talk about creating more time freedom through passive real estate investing. Passive investing in real estate challenges conventional investment wisdom. We are passionate about learning and sharing resources with others who are ready to transform their investing mindset. Quick disclaimer as always, I am not a CPA, I am not an attorney or a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, not telling you or anyone else what to do. The views and opinions expressed in these podcasts are provided for education and informational purposes only and are not necessarily the views of my employer. I'm glad you're here. Now let's dig in. All right, welcome back, Freedom Point Podcast listeners. Thank you again for jumping into another episode of the Freedom Point. We're so glad you're here with us again today. I've got another amazing guest, of course, as always. I have Mr. Tyson Cobb. Tyson, welcome to the show.
Jeremy, thank you so much for having me. Good to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to chopping it up here with this afternoon. Tyson is a semi-retired orthopedic surgeon who transitioned into full-time real estate investing. After 20 years in the high-stress world of orthopedic surgery, he realized that while he loved helping patients, the traditional path, the financial freedom, wasn't giving him the lifestyle or time freedom that he wanted. Today, Tyson runs Timberview Capital, a real estate investing firm that specializes in helping professionals transition from active to passive investing. Tyson, I'm not doing your bio much justice here. I know there's a lot more to say. So with that said, maybe you can help our listening audience learn a little bit more about you, your journey, what you're focused on today, et cetera.
Sure. And so I live in the Quad Cities and I've been here since 2000. Worked with the same orthopedic group for over 20 years and left them in 2019 and was right on the verge of retirement, dropped back to about 1 day a week. And I grew up on a farm and ranch in Texas, and I have a farm here in Iowa that I've since sold, and one in Illinois. And I just spent a ton of time on the farm for a few months and, kind of back to my roots, driving tractors and working on doing tree work and planting trees and doing different stuff and just the things that you love. And woke up one day and I'm like, I need more purpose in my life than this. And it became evident there's no way I was going to be able to fully retire just because I don't sit still very well. And so I moved into real estate investing, started out in triple net space, started joining groups and started trying to educate myself because I didn't know anything about it. I'd never taken any finance classes, accounting, real estate. When you guys would talk real estate, it would go right over the top of my head. I had no idea what you were talking about. So, it took months for me just to learn the vocabulary and get to where I had an understanding of what I was hearing. And audiobooks and podcasts, and there's a ton of good information out there. So if a person wants to transition, it's not that difficult. It just takes a little time, and so that's what I did, and then moved into syndications. And the amazing thing that was just absolutely shocking to me is I left full-time orthopedics. I was very, very busy, making a ton of money, paying a ton of taxes. And some time ago, the banker reached out to me and wanted a update on my personal financial statement. And so that happens roughly once a year. So I went into my computer to try to find last year's statement. And I'm looking at all these personal financial statements and a light bulb went off. And I'm like, I wonder what it looks like objectively, because I had a pretty good idea of sort of what had happened since I went into real estate. But I couldn't have objectively told you what, how things transition. So I actually went back and just plotted that on a graph. And in 2019, when I left my group and dropped back to 1 day a week and went into real estate investing and started mitigating tax obligations, I was working less, making more, and paying a ton less in taxes. And my slope for about the 5 years that I plotted before that was about like that. It was just a steady increase. And in 2019, when I brought real estate on board, it cranked up. And then when I went into syndications, it went up even steeper. And it's kind of mind-boggling to me to think that you could leave a profession like orthopedic surgery, being super busy in that profession, and actually do so much better as far as building a net worth. But that's been my transition, and I'm trying to teach people how to do the same. You go through different seasons in life, and I'm kind of head down. I have different goals set now that are completely different than what they used to be. But one of them is, giving back to people and teaching them what I've learned, because I could have never done it without, people's help, people like you that are, doing podcasts. And the interesting thing about the entrepreneurial group, they don't worry about dividing the pie, because they're just going to make more pies and more pies. And that's their mindset. So everybody's super, super willing to spend time and tell you how to do it. And here's what I did. And let me introduce you to my broker, or whatever path you're going down, And joining lots of groups and meeting lots of people. And that's who we do life with now. And it's just been a blast. This is, best portion of my life by far, for a lot of reasons, but it's just fun transitioning into something completely new, and having it work so well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Your background, Tyson, as you were explaining it, is somewhat similar to my own, minus the fact that I was never an orthopedic surgeon, but my compensation was equal to that of many orthopedic surgeons, having come, from a high income paying, sales professional job, in the technology space, and I kind of relate to your journey a little bit. Sometimes, being in a stressful sales environment where your quota is increasing month over month, year over year, it can become daunting, right? And there was times I know in my own personal professional journey where I just wanted to go out and work the land for a few days, right? Like you mentioned, wanting to be on the farm and kind of put in some of that manual labor, as really just a way to kind of escape, the stresses, of the occupation. But your story about how your wealth building trajectory, started to change, once you got into real estate, I noticed the exact same thing. I first got started in real estate back in 2012, went passive in 2015, and I started seeing over time, that my wealth building trajectory was changing, right? I was now in an environment where I wasn't paying 40% in federal income taxes, but I was paying 12%, right? I was in an environment where I was receiving regular, cash flow distributions into my bank account that I was doing nothing to earn, right? And so those tools are out there, and I appreciate you kind of sharing your perspectives there. I am kind of curious, though, as a recovering, I'll call you a recovering orthopedic surgeon at this point. Is there any pivotal moment that made you realize that real estate investing specifically was the path for financial freedom for you?
Well, I think that that realization came in pretty early in that regard. I mean, in 2019, I was just amazed that I was working less, making more, and paying a lot less in taxes. But transitioning into syndications allows you to do a couple of things. Number one, you can leverage the expertise of professionals that have been doing this for 20 or 30 years. So when I first went out, I bought a gas station, and just, I had a lot of sleepless nights because I didn't know what I was doing. Spend time on the phone, getting advice from people and trying to navigate problems that you've never seen before. And, when you're in syndications as a limited partners, that's pretty carefree. They just send you checks, and once a year you got to download a K1. And other than that, you don't have a lot of responsibilities other than up front, just vetting the deal to make sure it's the right deal to get into. I think those were the two transitions. Getting started, and first year it was an awakening, and I realized I was in the right spot. And then getting into syndications was the next turning point, where it was like, okay, now we can multiply this by many, and not have to actually be responsible for the day in and day out and decision making and dealing with tenants and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that you highlight that, and I love this word leverage that you had mentioned. whether you're an active income earner or an active real estate professional or an active small business owner, you're really leveraging your own time, your own knowledge, your own team, your own network, right? But when you're investing into real estate or any other commercial or alternative asset, you're really leveraging someone else's time, knowledge, experience, and network, right? And so that's one of the things that I really also appreciate, about being involved in real estate, but not actually having to be the guy, that's swinging the hammer, evicting a tenant, dealing with the quintessential, trash, toilets, termites, that sort of thing. So, I would like to maybe talk about kind of that when you first transitioned into real estate, Tyson. Were there any big obstacles maybe that you faced when you initially got started? Maybe how did you overcome them? What type of advice would you give, others that are new to the space?
Well, what I did is I had a colleague who was doing triple net investments, and I just leveraged that association, and I actually JV'd with a deal with him, and then invested through with his help on another deal, and after that it just kind of took off. But early on, I think the key is to finding other people that you can come alongside. And the mindset, as I mentioned earlier, with entrepreneurs, I have people all the time say, well, if this is such a good deal, why are you guys offering some of it up to someone else? Well, I'm like, well, go look at my portfolio on my website. We've got over $1 billion in there. There's no way I could do all that by myself. So, by teaming up, we're able to get into bigger and better deals. And, as my network grows and we get a larger capital base, it just allows us to do more and better deals. And that's just the way it works in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of power in those partnerships. So, for my listening audience that maybe doesn't understand or know what triple net lease means, maybe you could kind of explain that from a high level perspective. And then, kind of second to that is, how do triple net lease properties, how do they compare with other real estate investment strategies that you've explored?
Yeah, so there's different types of triple net. So, for instance, we have a deal right now that we're raising for that's a medical office fund. There's 4 different locations, and these are dentists and doctors and healthcare professionals. And they're responsible for everything. So they're responsible for the taxes, they're responsible for the insurance. And, as the taxes and insurance have been one of the difficult hurdles that we deal with in some of the other commercial real estate sectors like multifamily, particularly like down around the coastline. Insurance has just been crazy. We had a property under contract that was about 600 a unit, and it jumped to like 3,500 a unit. Just killed the deal. Numbers no longer worked. So those kind of things can turn you upside down pretty quickly, and it's a risk. So when you do triple net, it mitigates that risk. And the other thing about triple net is they're long-term leases. So with multifamily, our leases are 1 year usually. And with triple net and the deal that we're doing now, it's 10 and 15-year leases. So, it's just kind of math. You just do the math, and if the numbers work up front, then, unless the tenant passes away, you're probably not going to have to do anything at all for that length of time.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You had brought up kind of the tax efficiency, side of investing in real estate, whether it be, through triple net lease or multifamily. What strategies maybe have you found that are the most effective for high income professionals looking to achieve kind of some tax benefits in their real estate investing?
Yeah, so most of your high income earners want to do something about their W-2 or 1099. And, if you're going to go that route, you can do oil, gas. Some of those investments will work that way. Short term rentals. And the easiest way to do that is buy something towards the end of the year, so you don't have to actually manage the thing, because you do have to actively manage yourself if you're going to make that one work. And there's some other levers that you can pull that can get you there. If you can qualify as a real estate professional, which is what I do now, you have to have 750 hours a year managing real estate, and it's got to be more than anything else you're doing. So if you're working full time as an orthopedic surgeon, that's not going to work. So that's one path, but more importantly, in a more simple path, is if you're just looking at your net worth growth within your retirement account or your nest egg outside of the retirement. Either way, it offsets that very well. So everything that's in your passive bucket, you can offset with depreciation. And if you're going to invest through a retirement account, if you can set up a self-directed account, then you can invest in these syndications, and you can do what's called a discounted Roth rollover. And once you invest that money, let's say you put $100,000 in, it goes from being a liquid $100,000 to being not liquid. It's not in your control, and it's locked up long term. So that creates a discount on paper. And if you get it valuated by somebody that understands the rules for that, it'll wind up being worth about $50,000. So it's a paper loss, just like depreciation. So at that point, you roll it into a Roth. And then when you play the video forward, let's say that you go on to do 4 additional investments after that one. And let's say they average a 2x equity multiple, which is not that difficult to do in real estate. And then you retire. 100,000 with 5 rotations, doubling it with each rotation will give you 3.2 million. And if it's in a Roth, that's your money. You get to take it out and put it in your pocket. If it's still in a self-directed account, you have to pay taxes on it, because in a self-directed account, it doesn't grow tax-free. It grows tax-deferred. So when you take it out, you have to pay taxes on it. So depending on what your tax level is, which obviously if you're pulling out 3.2 million, it's going to be high. So the government's going to take a third to half of that, right? So if you play the video forward and think about these tax mitigating strategies, it's pretty simple to know which direction to go.
Yeah, no, Tyson, I really appreciate you unpacking that. And of course, I'll just mention to the listening audience that neither Tyson nor I are tax professionals. We're not CPAs, we're not tax advisors, et cetera. So please do seek your own, financial advice in that regard. But definitely, what you explained there, Tyson, is very powerful. And it's a strategy that I've deployed myself and have also encouraged, other investors to look at as well. I would like to now maybe kind of pivot and talk a little bit about that new investor, right? That higher income individual, maybe that busy professional, maybe that current orthopedic surgeon, right? What advice would you have for somebody like that, that feels trapped in a high stress career and is considering real estate as a way to replace the dependence on earned income?
Boy, I'd have a lot of advice. We could talk for hours about that. But the first thing is, I tell you, the step down retirement as opposed to full retirement is a beautiful thing. If you're stressed out in your job, which I think every orthopedic surgeon on the planet is at one point or time or another, when you go to part-time work and you're doing it at your own design, it is so much more fun. I just have a blast doing orthopedic surgery 1 day a week right now, and not taking any call. But so that's point number one. Consider that as a possibility, because it's just a lot more fun when you do it that way. Number two, join groups. You need to be part of a network, people that you can reach out to and get advice. Number three, I'm going to play off your point a minute ago. You need to get a good CPA. And most of the CPAs only do tax returns and tell you how big a check to write. So that's not what I'm talking about. You need to get a CPA that will give you some direction, go over everything, meet with you several times a year, be available to answer your calls when you have questions about stuff, and help you dot all the I's and cross all the T's. And I feel like I know the taxes pretty well, and I still keep somebody like that around. So I have one CPA that's filing my taxes right now. I have a completely different CPA who I use as a consultant for all of these high level things that we were just talking about. And then the two of them can kind of make sure that we didn't mess anything up or overlook anything. And it's just easier to do it right the first time and do it with people that know how to do that. So they're out there, people that can consult, attorneys, CPAs, specialists in self-directed accounts and so forth. And you just have to, join a network and talk to people that are using people like that, get referrals.
That's right. Yeah, the tax code is incredibly complicated, complex, constantly changing. And in my own experience, a lot of CPAs out there don't know all of the rules, right? There's specific ones that they're kind of dialed down to and niched into, for example. So I encourage all investors, if you don't have a CPA that works with clients that are both on the limited partner and the general partner side of real estate transactions, that you ought to level up, through your network and find somebody that understands, all the rules and benefits around, passive or active real estate investing. So great advice there, Tyson.
I'm Zach Happenstall, CEO and co-founder of Rise 48 Equity. Our goal is to help you protect and grow your wealth by investing in large multifamily apartment buildings. We do all the work as far as sourcing these large apartment buildings from the brokers, doing all of the on-site management with our vertically integrated property management company, doing all the renovations with our vertically integrated construction company. We completely rebrand the exteriors. We will renovate the interiors to our full platinum level scope, which increases the value of the asset to get that profit margin for the investor. If you'd like to learn about how you can partner with us on these exciting opportunities, and go to our website and set up a call with our team.
I'd love to know, since you kind of got your real estate investing journey, cranking back in 2019, what are some of the key lessons that you learned that you wish you had known when you first got started?
Well, I delayed for a while. So I definitely would have started faster and harder than what I did. Number two, I would have been more aggressive at joining groups and networks. And three, it's extremely important to take your time and vet these deals. When I first started getting into these real estate investments, they were very difficult to find. You go to a meeting somewhere and a guy would present something from a podium, and I'd go up and talk to him afterwards and say, "Hey, is that deal in Tampa? Do you have any room for that?" "No, sorry, full." "Oh, what about the deal that you're putting together down in Halston?" "Oh, sorry, it's full too." Just everything was filling up pretty quickly, and there was a ton of enthusiasm. Everything's super competitive, and it's just a lot easier now to get into really good deals because some good discounts out there because of what the Feds have done with the interest rates. The groups are important for sure.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you wish you had gone a little faster, maybe leveraged your network a little bit more. Obviously due diligence on sponsors. All that's incredibly important. And speaking about kind of where we are, right now in the current economic cycle, and as it relates to Timberview, Capital, how do you see your firm, growing to help more professionals achieve what you and I have achieved? And that's really what I would call time freedom and financial independence.
So something we did in 24 is I hired some new people. So we now have a director of investor relations. And this is a lady that I've worked with for about 15 years at the bank. And she was my personal banker there. And just, when you know somebody for 15 years, I knew for sure she was going to be the right person for the job. So that's one change we've made. And then we've brought some other people onto the team. So that helps a lot. You have to have enough manpower to process all this stuff that comes down the pike. And we were busy in 24. We helped close 17 different deals and signed about 20 million. And I think we had 17 and some change in the bank when the year ended on the 31st. So it was a busy year for us.
Yeah, that's great. Well, what's maybe up next for Tyson on your own personal or professional bucket list that you'd like to check off as we move through 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, so my big, hairy, audacious goal now is to put a portfolio together that will crank out $1 million a year that I can give away in charity. So that's my big goal. You go through different seasons in life, and I like to say that I'm in the season of the parable of talents. I know that I have gifts that I haven't fully utilized, and I'm cranking them out now. We're going hard, so we're just going to see if we can make it happen, and I think we will.
That's great. Yeah, that legacy impact all of a sudden becomes more and more important to us the older we get. So you've got a lot more to give. You've got some special talents and some special ways that you could use those talents and gifts to bless others. So I look forward to watching you do that from the sidelines. What would be maybe one or two different ways that our listening audience can connect with you to learn more about what you're up to?
Website is timberviewcapital.com, and there's a Calendly link that you can schedule right off the website. We have portfolio in there if you want to see what we're doing. We have our current offerings. At least the 506Cs will be on there. The Bs obviously won't, but that's a good way to kind of look into what we're doing. We have all our webinars are recorded, and so ton of resources and information available for people there.
That's great. Well, we'll go ahead and put those links in the show notes for the episode. And Tyson, I really appreciate you being on the show with me today and the tremendous value that you've brought our listening audience.
Jeremy, thank you so much for having me. Have a great day. Good being here.
Thank you. And listening audience, thank you for joining another episode of The Freedom Point. We look forward to having you join us on the next episode.
Thank you for hanging out with us today and for listening to the Freedom Point podcast, powered by Starting Point Capital. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on this show should be considered financial advice. Before making any financial decision, please consult with a professional. This show is copyrighted by the Freedom Point podcast. Written permissions must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting. If you're interested in connecting, you can find contact information at startingpointcapital.com.